Hey, what's up? This is Ill Factor from beatacademy.com, and in this video, I'm going to share with you some music production tips and techniques while recreating the beat in The Weeknd's Heartless. So let's go ahead and dive right in. So let's take a listen to the finished product. So let's go ahead and focus in on the drums. Here we have a drum rack loaded with some sounds, and let's double click the clip to take a look at the pattern. So it's pretty straightforward, but a couple things I want to do here. So I'm going to layer this clap and add a little bit more extra punch on the low mid. So I'm going to copy this whole clap row, hold the Option key, and drag that down to the snare that we have. But what we're going to do is now go to that snare and just filter it out. So it focuses mainly on the low mid. There you go. That gives a nice little punch to that low mid of the clap. And then we also have these notes here that are grayed out. And those are just deactivated. So I'm going to hit the 0 and that's going to reactivate them. And these are just the same hi-hats, but just pitched down that we have here. So we have hi-hat 1, and then we have a hi-hat 2, which is the same hi-hat, just pitched 6 semitones down. But I've also added a delay just on this secondary hi-hat. So that gives that nice little trail happening after that hi-hat is played. So let's take a look at that hi-hat. So as I mentioned before, I went ahead and placed this delay. And I've got this utility plugin to set the hi-hat sample in mono. It was just a little too wide, so just hit the mono button on this utility plugin to just narrow it straight down the middle. And I'm just doing a little bit of that delay, set it to a quarter note length, and switched it over to ping pong, so it's got that nice left and right stereo bounce going. Next, let's go ahead and add the 808. Now the 808 is a 808 sample loaded in a sampler here in Ableton Live that's going through some amp simulation, which is then going through some compression, and then EQ to shave off a lot of that high end, and then a sidechain compressor so that it ducks every time the kick is performing. So we're going to go ahead, drum rack, and then choose drum rack kick. Now let's see what that sounds like with the drums. So now let's move on to the lead that we hear throughout the song. And for this, I'm going to use the wavetable here in Ableton Live. And you can follow along using any 2 or more oscillator synth that you might have in your DAW. Now, we're not trying to hunt down the same exact preset or patch. What I want to focus in on here is how to develop the ear training, and that's going to be a lot more helpful and fruitful for you when trying to recreate or even just trying to create sounds that you hear in your head or from other songs. So when I hear the lead, it's very brassy. It's got this watery type of texture to it and definitely filtered out. So if it's kind of brassy, I'm going to start with maybe the sawtooth as our starting place for the waveform. I'm not going to start with the sine or the triangle because those are too dull, as you can see here. So let's start over with the sawtooth. And so you could choose the sawtooth wave on your synth in whichever DAW you're using. So let's go ahead and apply our cutoff filter to dull out some of that brightness from the sawtooth. Let's put it right about here and see what that sounds like. And then we're going to drive up the resonance to just bump up a little bit and focus a little bit on that frequency that we're cutting off. And let's add a little bit of filter drive here. So we'll give it about 5 dB. and I'm going to enable the second filter. Now here's why I'm doing this. I just want to take away I'm using this second filter to actually shape the sound as well. I'm taking a lot of the low end from that as well. So if you don't have a second filter in your synth, then just use another filter or an EQ to do the same thing. All right, now that's pretty good. We're dulling out the brightness. And then what we're going to do is go to the amp envelope here and just shape the overall body of this sound. So let's, instead of having it attacked really strong, let's go and bring the attack back a little bit. Right around here, see what that does. And drag out the decay right around there. And then let's give a nice tail so that after the note plays, there's a little bit of that release happening. Cool. And then what we're going to do is enable the unison. And so I'm going to select the shimmer here. It's got 3 voices, and we'll just give a little bit, well, let's just see what it sounds like now and then adjust the taste. And that's really where a lot of that brassy type vibe is coming from. So let's go ahead and put a second oscillator in there. And this one's just going to be a little bit, just to give a more body to that, we'll choose the triangle. A little bit duller than the sawtooth. And we'll bring this a whole octave down. So -12. And we'll just mix it to taste. So that's just adding a little bit of body there. All right, I'm going to go ahead now to my audio effects folder, grab an auto filter, and just use this as a way to just take off a little bit more high end. I like the way the wavetable is now. I'm not going to use the cutoff frequency here because I like the state that it's in. So we're using another filter to do that. And then we're going to add some width with some chorus. So I'm going to add a little bit of chorus on here, just the way that it comes. And let's just dial that down. Cool. All right. And then with that, let's add a little bit of delay. So I'll just go to the delay plugin, and we're looking for a quarter note here. So I'm going to switch it to the quarter note. We'll switch that to ping pong. And with this delay, we can filter out any unwanted frequencies. So I'm just going to focus in here and just crank up the feedback a little bit. Well, let's listen to it and adjust the taste. Cool. And then let's go ahead and add a reverb on top of that. And that's what's going to give a lot of that space. So reverb right over the delay. And let's just bring this down. Now underneath that lead, there is a sample that's adding this nice cool texture and layer to it. And you can hear it throughout the whole song as well. But since we don't have that sample, we're going to recreate that type of feel and simulate that vibe with a pad and adding some extra textures to that. So let's go back to the wavetable, drag and drop that onto another MIDI track here. And we're going to create a pad. So let's go right back to the sawtooth and dull out some of the high end, focusing on the low mid or the mid section as well. So let's use both filters to do exactly that. And let's listen to the chords. So let's shape the amp envelope a little bit because we want it to swell. We don't want it to be an abrupt attack. And let's loosen the release a little bit. And then we're going to head over to the LFO. We want a little bit modulation to happen. So we're going to go to the matrix here and we're going to hit the detune section. And that's going to allow oscillator 1 pitch to be assigned to whichever one we want. And we want the LFO. And let's just adjust the timing and the amount here. So that causes that modulation of the pitch to happen. And now to add some of that texture that we hear or that we're trying to go for, we're going to use an audio effect plugin called grain delay. I'm going to click, drag that on top of here. And what this delay is going to do is gives you the ability to alter the actual delayed signal. So let's bring the dry and wet all the way down, and let's set the pitch up to an octave higher. So I just put 12 up there, and what that's going to do is that will pitch up the actual delayed signal. And then you could set the interval, and so let's set it to a quarter note here, and we can adjust some more of these settings all the way up here. Let's add some of the spray. And let's adjust the feedback so that it prolongs that delayed signal. And let's adjust the frequency. And I'll just do a little bit of unison on that. So it's adding all those artifacts that we can hear. Now what we're going to do is commit this to audio. Now, several ways that you can do that, but let's go ahead and create an audio track, and let's set the input into right here, and we're going to choose track 4, which is the wavetable. That's going to be the input, and let's just record enable that, and then go ahead and click record. Now, the purpose for me to record this in audio is to get more out of that textures that we've been creating. Is we're going to transpose the audio down a whole octave. So I'm going to click this to the transpose knob here and hit -12. And we're going to go from beats and experiment with different type of algorithms for the warping. Now let's go ahead and add some effect processing. So I want the sample to feel a little bit swirly, so I'm going to use a flanger for that. We'll place that as our first effect. And just dial the dry and wet knob a little. And then let's go ahead and add a auto filter. So I'll head over here and filter that out as well. And then we're going to go ahead and add some reverb to create some dimension and space. Now, throughout the song, there are certain times where it feels like it is being gated. So I'm going to use an auto pan for that. And we're going to set the auto pan to be in sync with the project. We'll leave it at maybe every quarter note here. We'll set the amount all the way to 100%. We want to be drastic with it just to hear the effect. And we're going to bring the phase down to 180, because right now its purpose is to pan this both left, and it's to the left and to the right at that rate. So what I want to do is just bring the phase down. So now this will act as its as a gate. And then we can just dial this back a little bit more. And see what that sounds like with everything else. And I'll just do the offset. And now I'm going to add piano, which we can hear throughout some of the verse parts as well. So for that, I'm going to use the XLN Audio Addictive Keys, just the standard modern upright patch. And let's go ahead and add some texture to that as well. So for this, I'm going to use the RC20, also by XLN Audio. And I'm going to just drag and drop that there. And this is going to give not only just some distorted texture here, we have some noise. Don't really need that, so I'll just bring that all the way down. Want more of that wobble. And the space, we're going to use some reverb. So we'll bring the decay down and just shave off some of the higher end and the low end of that reverb as well. And now let's see what this sounds like with everybody else. And before we finish, let's wrap this up by focusing in on the respace that we hear at the breakdown sections. So for this, I'm going to use the analog. Once again, any 2 oscillator synth would work. And here is the part. So what we need to do is first head over to the volume section and set this from 8 voice polyphony to mono. We don't want those notes, as you heard, to overlap each other. And then let's go ahead and filter out all that brightness and go to the second oscillator and detune it slightly to give it that nice Hoover Reese type of effect. And then we'll both boost up the resonance as well. And let's just add some saturation to this. So I'll head over to the saturator and give a little bit of drive and just turn down the output a little bit. I might want to compress for the sole purpose of kind of keeping those peaks that jump out a little bit under control. And then we can get the drums. We'll just copy that drum section here. I'll move this down here. So we'll go to the drum pattern here, and let's go ahead and just choose the ×2 button. That's going to transform this to halftime. Well, we need to select the whole clip here, and then hit ×2, and then here we go. And then we'll just highlight the low pitched hi-hats and deactivate them by hearing 0. Well, hey there, thanks for taking the time to watch this video. I hope it was helpful, encouraging, and inspiring in any way. And as my gift to you for watching, I'd love to send you a sample pack, including some of the sounds that you heard in this video. It also includes construction kits, loops, one-shots, transition effects, and it works on any DAW. Just simply click, drag and drop, and you're good to go. And it's 100% royalty free, so you can use it in your projects and share that music with the rest of the world. Just go ahead, click the link below in the description box, or visit www.beatacademy.com/pack to download the sample pack today. Be sure to subscribe, and I'd love to hear from you. What videos would you like to see me do next? Subscribe so you can keep up to date with those, and I'll see you next time.